Today we're going to be taking our API that we created last week and we're going to be validating our login form using the API and returning information specific to these accounts. Hey guys, welcome back to a new episode of DevDrawer. Today we're going to be taking what we've done over the past few videos and we're going to be combining them into basically one project. So we've created like this logon script that uses authentication in vanilla.js to do all of this stuff, and then we also created a simple API which returns user information that we can then use on that script. So right now they're two separate projects that they haven't been put together. So as you can see inside of my VS Code, I have the sample API project, and then I have the JS login project, which is both project folders. So we're going to be working with both of them at the same time. So I figured go ahead and get them all loaded up so we can use them. So today, let's just try to finish out this project and let's get started. So first things first, let's go ahead and make this go live. And select JS login, so it'll go live. And I'm going to copy and paste this into our incognito mode view because that's what I'm currently using to look at it. So I don't think it's going to be doing any kind of auto refresh or anything like that right now, but that's fine. Don't really need that. So if you remember, inside of our JS login, we have this login.js, and inside of this file, we have a specific section in here for do login API here. Right now, it's not really validating the information typed in, so we can essentially type in whatever we want. It logs us in and redirects us to a dashboard. So what we wanted to do is actually log in authenticated against this API that we've created that's returning this default information. And the reason why it's returning this information is because in the tutorial, the way that we have it set up is that we're passing admin and password, which is the admin and password username for our username and password combination for this specific account. So this is going to be something that now we're going to modify in order for this login.js to interact with this page and send over dynamic data. In order to do that, we have to modify our login.js, and then we have to modify the authenticate PHP in order for it to be able to talk to each other. So let me go ahead and start it off by, let's just go ahead and comment out what we have here so it doesn't accidentally submit the form while we're doing our code changes. So what we need to do is create some variables that are going to be coming from our username and our password fields. So I'm going to create a, let's just say variable data equals, let's do username, and then it's going to be document, let me decrease that, see document dot query selector, and then we're just going to pass username. So we're going to pass username, and then we're going to pass the value of our username. Then we're going to copy this, and we're going to paste it and pass password value as well. So now we have password and password here. Okay, so that's our data that we're going to be passing to the script to pass to the API. We're going to be using JS Fetch for this. So we're going to do fetch, and then we're going to pass in its sample API. So sample API dot local, and then we're going to be hitting this specific URL that you see right here. So sample API dot local slash users slash auth. So that's what we're going to be adding here. So users slash auth. And then from here, we're going to have to pass in the information that it's requesting. So we have our fetch here. Let's go ahead and we're going to send it over with a method post. So method, let's see, method, and this is going to be post. And then in the body, we are going to send over a JSON.stringify, and then it's going to just pass that data that we created at the top. So our variable is going to be passed here, and it's going to be passed as JSON. And then we're going to also send over some headers, which is going to send it over as a JSON content type. So content type, and then we are going to pass application/JSON, and then our char set is going to be UTF-8. So char set equals UTF-8. Okay. I think that is it that we need for that. Okay, so now that we're in here, we want to do a once it does the fetch, we want to do a then, and then we're going to grab get the response from it. So we're going to do then response, and then with that response, we're going to basically pull the JSON for it. So we're going to do response.json. And then the next step, we're going to do another .then, and then this is going to be where the data that is being sent back to us is where we can do stuff with the data. So inside of this data, so this response is basically just sending over and receiving the response that we have, what we want. And then if it's successful, it grabs the data. It's going to then come to this section, and it's going to run through the information that we have. So let's just do a console.log, and then just console log out the data. Finally, let's do a catch. So we're going to do catch, and if it's not successful, we want it to pass the reason why it's not successful. So we're going to do console.error, and then we're just going to pass in that error of data.message, which should be coming from our, if we look in, I want to say it's our auth, we have this message here. So if it's, for some reason, if it fails, it's going to be passing in this information to us. So if that section does exist, then it's going to just pass in the data.message for us to be able to see if, what's wrong with it. Okay, so that should be all that we need to get started with this. So now if I come back over here and we refresh, and let's try to use admin password, and then we click on login. This was expected, so it's something I am expecting. We have to do some modifications to our PHP to get around the CORS blocking. But for right now, this is what we're wanting it to show us. So we got an error of failed to fetch. What's basically saying that it's trying to fetch something that it can't because there's a CORS blocking it. Even though it was a 200, it was able to hit it. It just wasn't able to actually do anything with it. So it's giving us a failed message. So now if we switch back over to our authorize.php, we need to add some variables here. So the first thing we want to do is add some headers. So these headers are going to control that CORS access for us. So we're going to do access-control-allow origin. And you could block this off. Right now I'm just going to have it pretty much wide open just because this is a sample. It's not really being used anywhere else. But you can make it do specific things, and I've went over this before in other API tutorials. So I'm not going to go into too much detail about what you should and should not do here, but basically this is kind of like wide open. So you just make sure that you are allowing access from the servers that you want to have access to it. Then we're also allowing the methods get and post. Right now, I think the only thing that we're using is the post, if I'm not mistaken. I believe the fetch that we're going to be sending over was a post. But just having get on there is also something worth having. So we're also going to have allow headers, and we're going to allow all headers, again wide open. And then we want this page to have a specific type of response. So we're going to do header, and then this is going to be content. So content type application JSON, and then we're basically making this application type the content type the same as this one, so application JSON and then UTF-8. So I'm going to go ahead and just retype it out. So we're going to do charset equals UTF-8, again, just to have that on there. And minimize this so you can see it. Okay, so now we should be able to access this API. Of course, it's not going to work because it's we're not passing anything to it, so it's still returning that default information that we were originally getting, because the admin and password is hard-coded. So right now it doesn't matter what we type in here, we can type in whatever and it's going to return admin and the admin account. So let's go ahead and I'm going to refresh this to clear that out and refresh this, and you can also see that this now, I don't know if you were able to see it, but if you rewind the video and look, you can see that it kind of changed the format a little bit, because now this is being returned as a JSON format rather than a text format. So now we are sending over this username and password as part of our body. So in order to grab that data, we want to be able to pass it here. So let's create a variable in our PHP called data, and then it's going to be JSON decode, because we're sending it over as JSON decode or JSON encoded strings or arrays, and then we're going to do file get contents, and then this is just going to be a PHP input, and basically this is going to take the content that's being sent over here as part of the body, and it's just going to be like, okay, so it's being sent over as JSON and it's being received here as this PHP input. It's just something that exists as the action is being made. So we're able to grab that and then decode it, and then that should give us our data here. So let me, just to test that, I'm going to comment out everything that we have here and refresh, and I'm going to do, let's do a print R and just print the data out. So this should return a, probably not going to show anything here, but on this side, if we do admin and password, go to log in. Oh, that's because I got to do JSON encode. So let's do, we're going to do echo JSON encode. And let's try that again. There we go. So now it's saying, admin and password is being sent over. So if we change this to password 2, we hit login, now we have password 2. So that's kind of what we're looking for here. It's printing out what we want it to be printing out. So now we just got to grab those variables and push them into this default information that we currently have. Okay, so we have our username is set up here. Let's go ahead and make this a blank, so the variable is always set to a blank. And then we're going to come in here, we're going to say if is set and then data, and if that is set, then we're going to set this username, so username, and it's going to be equal to data username. And then we're also going to pass password is going to be equal to data password. So that should give us the information that we need to be able to pass to the username and password. So now if we come back over here and let's do password, it should display what we want. So let's try the other one. I think the other account was like test and password again, I think. There we go. So it's pulling the other account because it's using that information. So now if we type in a bad password, so let's do password 2, it's going to say user account not found, because again that is coming over here where then it's returning a 400 error. So everything is working as expected. So let's clear this out, and we are going to now go back into our login.js and we're going to finish writing what we need to here. So right now we're just console log in the data. We're going to remove this, and we're going to let's see, we want to create, okay, so we have it where it's potentially sending over an error. So if it sends over an error, we want to be able to handle that. So let's do if data.error. So this is, if it hits it, then it's going to try to look to see if that account exists. If it doesn't exist, we want it to be able to show an error message. We want it to be able to show that there's a message on the form here saying that it's not a valid form or a not valid entry for username and password. So let's first do a console.error, and we're going to do error, and then we want to pass the data.message. So we also have that being logged in our console log if we want it. You don't have to do that part. I'm just going to do it so we can showcase what it is. So let's do on the index.html, I'm going to create a new, what I want to do. I'm going to do something here that displays, I'm going to put it right above the username. So inside the form, I'm going to create a div class equals error message all. Alright, so error message all. So inside of our JavaScript, let's go back over here, we also want it to show a response to the user. So this is going to be showed in the console, but we also want it to show a response to the user themselves. So we're going to do document.query selector, and then that new the new div that we just created, which is error. So error dash message dash all, and then we're going to do style.display equals block. Okay, so that is one way to get it to show up. So now we also need to, I'm just going to copy this, and instead of doing style.display, we're going to change this to inner text, and we're just going to make it say your password or username is incorrect, please try again. And that should give us an error message if it goes wrong. So let's try the error message now. So let's just type in something and hit it. Okay, so we're getting our error. User account cannot be found. That's good. Cannot read properties of null reading style. So query selector. Oh, that's because they're classes. So let's fix that real quick. Now let's go back over here. Just type in whatever. There we go. So your password and username is incorrect. Please try again. All right, cool. So now we're getting that. But if we do type in correctly, so admin password, nothing happens because we don't have it currently doing anything. But we do know that that part is working. So we have where this this error message displays. So let's go into our Sass, and we're going to add a style for this error message. So let me see, where would be a good place to put it at? I know we have an error message. All right, so let's do error message dash all. And we're going to do font size. Let's make it the same as the other one. So 0.85 rem. And let's see, we're going to do color, which is going to be error color. And let's do text align. Let's make it centered. And let's do margin. Let's just put like 1 rem on the top and the bottom and nothing on the left and the right. And then we're going to make it display none by default. Okay, so let me go ahead and run that Sass. So now, if we refresh, just type in something, maybe do a hard refresh. Error message all. Let me see if there's any problems with it. Watching, it's because I typed it before. Okay, there we go. Now we should be able to see that once we refresh. No. Sample API CSS style min. So we got it here, style min. Let me make sure it's hitting that. So CSS style min. style CSS. All right, let me do a hard refresh here. Should be hitting it. Why is it not hitting it? Let's inspect it. It doesn't have a style associated with it. Why? So it's class error message all. Let me just copy that just to make sure I typed it in correctly. I did. So I figured out what the issue was. So if I type in this and hit login, you see that it changes now. The issue was that whenever I was saving this SAS, because I have two folders open, so both of these folders that are open, it was basically saving it to the top root and adding CSS here. So I just took the CSS folder that I was generating here and I just drug it in here. So if I resave this, you can see that it creates this CSS folder. That's not where it's supposed to go. It's supposed to go here. But that's probably because I got two folders open and I'm not dictating which folder it actually goes into. I'm just dictating that it goes into the first folder and adds it a CSS folder. So basically what you do is just take this, you can drag it down to your JS login. It's going to ask you if you want to move it and replace it, and that's all you need to do. But we don't need to watch this anymore. I believe that's the only style that we're going to add for now anyway, and I'll modify that if I need to. So let's get out of there and let's test it out again. So we got ASDF, just type in something, and then we can also verify our other stuff still working too. So password must be 8 characters. Now if it is, you can see that it's not working. If we hit admin password, and then it's not going to do anything because we don't currently have it doing anything. So let's go over to our login.js again and close this so we can see a little bit better. And now if the data error, if that doesn't exist, let's run an else statement. So else, and then we want to then come down and do what we were doing down here. So let's copy this, and now we want to run it. And I think I'm also going to want to run and save the data that's being sent over. So let's come over here and do a local storage dot set item, and then let's just call this one user, and then it's just going to be JSON dot stringify, and I'm just going to stringify the returned data. So there, that should do it. Now if we submit that form, it's going to set a local storage item for authentication and user, and it's going to store the information and then submit the form for us. So if we come back over here and we do admin password and we hit login, we're logged in, and if we click on our application, we can see the user is storing all the information that we have here and the authentication here. So let's go and log out. So right now, that's an issue. We need to get it where when you hit logout, it removes that user variable. So inside of our, I think it's Authenticate.js, so inside of this, we have this logout function. So we just need to take this, and we're just going to add another remove item called user, because that's what we just created. And if we come back over here, we have to log in again. So we're going to do admin and password. We're going to log in. Now if we hit log out, it removes both of them. So that's what we want. So now let's just test it by doing test user and password again. And we have the username test person, so all of that is different. So that means that it's hitting the API, it's producing what we want it to produce, and it's displaying what we want it to display. So now let's take it even a step further and make it where whenever you logged in, so we're going to do admin and password. So if you log in correctly, let's change it up a little bit here so it says something like, instead of welcome to the dashboard, let's make it say something else. Let me open up my dashboard HTML here, and instead of saying welcome to the dashboard, let's just have it say dashboard, and then right before the log out, let's have it say something like welcome, and let's do a span ID of full name, and then we're going to have it where it says your full name, and then it's going to present you with a log out link. So right now it's saying welcome with nothing there. So what we need to make it do, since we're storing that information inside of our I'm going to say authenticate. Yeah, let's do our authenticate CSS. So inside of here, if everything is being authenticated, then let's go and add some text to it. So right now we have it where it's displaying the block, the body as blocks. So let's come over here and we're going to do var span username equals document dot query selector, and then we called it full name, and then what we want to do is span underscore username dot inner HTML equals user dot fname plus with a space and then user dot lname. Now we need to define this user, so up here we need to create another constant variable. So we're going to do const user equals json.parse, and then we're going to grab that local storage that we created. So local storage get item, and it's going to be user, and then inside of this validate auth we're going to pass that variable to it. So validate auth, and then we need to also call it here. So now the user should be available to us. Now it says welcome test admin. So if we log out, we do test password and hit login, we now have welcome test person. So that is pretty much it. Basically we've tied in our API to the login screen of our Vanilla.js application. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff you can do with this. Maybe I'll get into that a little bit later. Maybe in another video I'll show you how to do some tokenization to make the security of it a little bit more secured. Right now there is no tokenization that's being passed. It's basically just username, password, or username, login information being sent over, and it's being returned. So you can use this same type of code structure to build out like internal pages or stuff like that. You know, you can make things that goes onto this dashboard, and you can make it where, you know, information coming from here is only available to people that are authenticated. So there's a whole bunch of other really cool stuff that you can do with this. This is basically creating like your own potential content management system using JavaScript. So pretty cool premise to be able to work with, but this should be able to kind of get you started on doing that. So maybe in the next video I will actually create the authentication tokens, kind of like I've done with the previous application development using an API. So I'll actually build it into Vanilla.js rather than jQuery. So maybe we can test that out next time. But for now, I think that's going to do it for this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that you learned something from it. If you liked it, give me a thumbs up. If you have any comments or questions or anything like that, let me know, and I'll try to address them as best I can. So until next video, I will talk to you later.